hey, wait a minute, you don't need to hire all the best qualified people. Of course, you want great people, but you want people that can work with each other, people that can do team building, people who can learn, have a curiosity to figure things out. That's what you want. So I started looking for the best people, because skills can be learned, but enthusiasm, attitude, your personality, that is who you are. And that's really what I learned.
Hi, everyone. This is Amy Valdivia with the Just Ask Upland podcast, where what are we doing here? We're highlighting all of our fantastic chamber members and the businesses that they own and their impact to our community. We are the best chamber in the Inland Valley. That's right. We've been voted the best chamber. And I am so excited because today we have a gentleman who is an inspiration to me, as well as he has impacted multiple communities. He's been the businessman of the year in other chambers. We won't talk about them. Nonetheless, he has a fantastic track record. He knows how to run a business. He knows how to grow a business, and his story is amazing. Welcome, Arif Taj from Sports Clips. Yay!
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here today.
Like, oh, okay.
Well, you're the man. I got to tell you.
Great.
So we're going to jump in and we're going to tell everybody who you are, why you do what you do, and where did you go? Why did you decide Sports Clips was the business for you?
Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. I've done a couple of them before, but this is my first event with the Upland Chamber, and it's very, very exciting for me to be here with you, especially because we've become such good friends. Just a real brief history of where I'm from and what my journey's been like So I was born in India, in Mumbai in 1955. So I'm dating myself. But it's all good because that's the whole story of this journey. But I grew up in Pakistan, but I spent most of my summers in India with my grandparents. So I was able to graduate pretty early in my life. I have a mathematics degree from the University of Karachi, and I graduated in 1977. So I was like almost 22 at that time. And then I didn't know what to do with that degree. So my parents had a business, and I said, well, okay, I don't want to be part of that business, but I want to do something. And they were actually very gracious in helping me start my own business with one of my cousins. So we did that for a couple of years, and I was like 20, I was ripe old age of 23 at that time.
And this is still in Pakistan?
This is still in Pakistan. So I was like, wow, 23 years old, and I've got my own business. But then I said, you know what? I need to see the world a little bit more before I settle down and do whatever it is that I'm going to do with my life and my career. So I left Pakistan when I was 23 years old, and I got a ticket pretty much around the world. I started in the Middle East, visited some friends because I had made friends while I was going to college, and I visited them for a few days here and there, stayed with them, got to Europe, and then ended up staying there for quite a bit of time, almost like a year. I didn't know what to do. So at that time, my friends were all going to school. I had already graduated. So I started a little journey around Europe. So I went to all these different countries. My base was in London, but I went to all of these different countries around, pretty much hitchhiking, taking the bus, taking the train. I didn't know very many languages other than English and some of my local languages that I knew in growing up in Pakistan and India. But somehow was able to communicate. This is, we were talking about late 70s, and got to see most of Europe doing pretty much whatever I wanted to do.
The backpack thing, when it was still safe.
It was still safe. It was a different world at that time, and people were so gracious. Most of the country, cities are cities, they were like that, but most of the countryside that I went to and traveled, slept in barns, slept in people's homes, they fed me, did all those kind of things, and it was kind of a fun way of learning about the world, about different cultures, different religions, different ethnicities. And even with the language not being able to communicate in a verbal way, we were able to communicate in so many different ways, and people understood what I was doing. I understood what they were doing, and it was just the best time of my life.
I have to stop you right there, because this is, I hope the audience is listening. There were no cell phones.
Nope.
You didn't know how to communicate. Nope. We joke around, and I say this all the time when we talk. You slept with your head on a rock.
Well, in bars and stuff, not literally rocks, but yeah, close to it.
Right.
But yeah, in
you had no idea
places.
Where you were going,
Nope.
who you were going to be with.
No.
You were
Well, most of the time, I knew which way I was headed, but where I was going to end up, I didn't know. Because it was, I would hitch a ride or take a bus and really didn't even have a map. Just basically just went around wherever I felt like going. I had family in some of the countries, so I stayed with them. So I was like, it wasn't like completely out there, but a lot of the time it was. And it was fun because at that time there were no worries. You could do those kind of things and still be fine and didn't worry about your well-being, at least.
That same message, though, can be applied to an entrepreneur's journey.
Yeah.
Because you think you know where you're going, you set out on this path, and you say, I'm going right over there.
It out.
And then you figure it out.
Yeah.
And you really don't know for sure what it's going to look like at the end.
Yeah.
You just all of a sudden get there one day and realize this is it.
Yeah, and it forms you because that's really where you learn that pretty much all around the world, people are the same. They have the same aspirations. They have the same thing for their kids. They're all looking for, having a life where they have shelter, they have food, they have community, they have family. People's aspiration for their family or their children or their siblings was exactly the same all around the world. It did not matter where you were. And that really formed a lot of who I became later on in life. Obviously, in those moments when you're young and doing all these things, you really don't pay attention to those, but actually that is a seed that's planted and it's sort of growing. Like I do some little talks for Sport Clips and things like that. I've gone out and people have invited me to how to build culture, how to build team, how to take care of people, and how to really be a person. How do you do that and how do you connect? And that's really where you learn that because one of the things, I'm big on quotes. I like reading a lot. So I've done that throughout my life and I still do that. Every day I read at least something and that's the process I go through. But that also gives me those things that I can share with other people in my story because it has been a 68-year journey for me and I'm still learning. Because every day is something I'm learning, something I didn't know before, or at least something I'm curious. I'm very curious by nature. So I ask questions. Sometimes people will not answer, but that's okay. But if I don't ask, how am I going to know whether they're going to tell me or not? So that's really what it is. And like I say, your mind is like a garden and your thoughts are like your seeds. You can either grow flowers or you can grow weeds, right? So you just got to figure out what it is that you want to do. And of course, when you're younger, you don't have all of that, but you at least have the basics of it. And then hopefully you learn and grow and start figuring out how this all works. And life is very simple, like I say. It's really all about people. There really isn't anything more than that.
There's so many gems and nuggets out of everything you just talked about, especially for those viewers that are wondering, what should I do? Do I want to be a business owner? How do I even get involved? There are kids graduating from college right now.
And I do that too. I go out to speak at schools, where there are young people that probably don't know at this moment what they don't do, but they want to see real people and hear their real journeys and see, how does that affect. So being a person is one thing, but being a business person is another thing. Being an entrepreneur is another thing. But everybody has that ability to do that. It's just got to figure out what it is that you're excited about, right? It's got to be the passion. You have to have a passion for whatever it is that you're going to do.
So there's two things that are coming and resonating to me as I'm hearing you talk in our past discussions. Number one, it's the human factor.
So
There's
always
a human
about the
factor
human factor.
in anything you do, whether
you do.
it's you have a job or whether you have a business.
Does not matter.
I think that's part of the journey that I want to talk about next. Whether you have a job or an entrepreneur, business owner, just because you're a business owner doesn't necessarily mean you're a true entrepreneur at heart.
That's true.
It's a human factor behind that,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a journey. You don't know for sure which way you're going to go.
Yes.
We've already established that.
Mm-hmm.
It's being open to being a lifelong learner,
Mm-hmm.
new lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You finished hanging out in Europe.
Yeah.
You come to the U.S.
I come to the U.S. and the whole idea is that I'm going to get together with my friends. Some of them were going to universities here, and we got together in the summer. So I got here actually on the 4th of July, 1979. I landed on the 4th of July, which is kind of, I didn't know at that time that the timing was like that, but it was that day. And I remember because my cousins came and picked me up from LAX. And when they did, they brought this small car and I had my luggage and myself. So we sort of crammed into that car. And that was a long journey because they lived in, Ventura County. So we had to drive. It was like almost an hour plus drive. In those days, the traffic wasn't that bad. So, but it still was an hour drive. And it happened to be the 4th of July. But anyway, I then went to Oklahoma and met my friends. And a couple of my friends from Europe also came. And there were 5 of us, bachelors, young people, and we rented a motorhome in New York. We went to, first we rented a motorhome in Oklahoma. I went to the eastern part of the country. We went through about probably 8 or 10 or 12 states. I don't remember, it's such a long time ago, but we stopped all the way at different places, camped around, and then ended up in New York. Then got another motorhome from there, and then came all the way to California. And then Washington State. So we did about, I think, 33 states or something like that in like 6 or 7 weeks. And then they had to go back to school. So I ended up back in Oklahoma. And my friend went to school and I ran out of money.
Okay. That was something I was thinking about. Make sure you let everybody know. How did you finance this fun
So the 2 years that I worked with the company that we had formed with my cousin, I saved all my money. So that's the money I had. And I thought that would be enough for me to get me. So my ticket was through Europe and then to the United States and then back through the Far East and back to my country in Pakistan. But when I got here, when I got back to Oklahoma, this is like we're talking about maybe late August, about 6-8 weeks after that. And then ran out of money and I said, well, what am I going to do? So my cousin sent me like, I think $300 at that time, which is a lot of money. And I took a Greyhound bus back to California. And I promised myself I will never, ever travel on Greyhound again. And I have not. Because that was the worst summer journey I took coming back here. It stays with me and I've never gone back and taken a Greyhound anywhere after that. But anyway, came back here, found money, and then my cousin said, well, maybe you can find a temporary job, something, make some money, and then go back. And I said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And so I applied and got hired at a company called Burroughs at that time. And I had a math and physics background, but I didn't know much about computers. I had actually never come across any computers. So when I got hired there, I was hired on as a technician. First, they didn't want to hire me because I had a degree, and then I somehow got convinced, and they said, okay, we'll hire you. So I hired on as a technician, and this is another part of the journey of, again, how it all came about. So this is not talking about late, I think it was like October 79 is when I got hired. I stayed with that same company for 27 years. I built my career on that. The first day I went, I got my training and all that. And when I started working with computers, I fell in love with it. I figured this was the moment that I figured out this is really what I wanted to do the rest of my life because I just loved it. I'm a very logical person. And so that's another story we're going to tell. So at that moment in my life, I was always a black and white person. Logic just made sense to me. And that's why mathematics and physics, because it was all zeros and ones. And they tell a story to me, and I was gravitated to that. So when I got into the computer industry, it was all logic. And that was just my calling, basically. So I got enamored with it, and I said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I ended up with that company for 27 years, started as a tech, worked my way to an engineering position, got into management stuff and things like that, and then kept growing. I did different thing again, like I said, I'm very curious. I want to learn new things. I started there and ended up my career running a pretty large division, owning my own P&L. And that's where I learned a lot of the human skills. One quick example is like when I got to a management position, after 3 or 4 years, I would hire the best qualified people from universities that had the best grade point averages, had the best degrees and all of that. And I quickly found out that did not work very well. These were all great people, but they did not work as a team. This is where I learned how to build teams. And then one of the things I learned is like, hey, wait a minute. You don't need to hire all the best qualified people. Of course, you want great people, but you want people that can work with each other, people that can do team building, people who can learn, have a curiosity to figure things out. That's what you want. So I started looking for the best people, because skills can be learned, but enthusiasm, attitude, your personality, that is who you are. And that's really what I learned. And that's the thing, the curiosity part and learning part and adapting and figuring out team environments and team chemistries and all of those things. Those are the things I started looking for. And then when I figured that out, I had some of the best teams. We did great work together. A team is where a group of people have the same goals. They're working towards the same, they bring individuality, they bring their own way of doing things. And diversity, that's why it's so important to have, because different frames of references, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different upbringing, because you know what you know. But the best way to learn is to surround yourself with people who know more or different, and then use that to make it into something that's beneficial to everybody, not just you. One of the things I do in my teams is leadership is not a position or a title. Leadership is where you take care of the people that are part of your team. You take care of their needs, because if you take care of their needs, then they will take care of you. It just works that way.
You spent 20 years in a job.
27 years.
27 years in a job, in a career.
Yes.
Some would say 27 years, you're done.
Yeah.
Like tap out and go into retirement.
And that's just the beginning.
Right. And that's when you used all of that education,
learning,
all of that curiosity, that learning, and said, I think I'm going to go become an entrepreneur now. I think I'm going to be a businessman.
Actually, the journey became sooner than that. So while I was working, my family, my dad had a law degree, but he was a businessman. My uncle had a law degree. He was a businessman. Some of my cousins and relatives, in our household, college wasn't an option. It was this is where you're going. So everybody had, even my mom in those days, it wasn't. She had a bachelor's degree in languages, which is, we're talking about, early 1900s. And then, so education was just an expected thing. So my sister's a doctor. One of my sisters is an educator. She's a administrator and principal for a large school. All my cousins and everybody, my extended family, they're all somehow. But a lot of them, I would say about 80 or 90% of them have ended up in businesses of some kind. So when I was working, my cousins started Baskin-Robbins franchises, and they had multiple stores. And I said, well, I want to get into that. So I thought about it and talked to my wife, Susan, and we had small children at that time. I said, this is the time, let's just do it. So my dad helped me out. My dad was semi-retired at that time, so he moved out here in 1994. And then 1994 is when we started, we bought a existing store, which was a Baskin-Robbins, while I was working full-time. And I was traveling overseas quite a bit too, and traveling in the country too, because that's how my work entailed. So long days, long hours, but it was something I just was excited about doing, about building something that I can at some point leave my company. But that didn't happen that soon, because we started in 1994 with the Baskin-Robbins, And I didn't leave till like 2007, my company. So we had multiple stores. I was doing this. We had, I was commuting. I was traveling, doing all that stuff. But we were making it work somehow. And of course, my dad was a big help with the kids, picking up from school, all that kind of stuff. So we have three kids, 1 daughter, 2 sons. So 94 is when my journey with franchise business started. And I learned a lot of things over there. Even though we had kids working, mostly high school kids, all my kids went through it. All their high school friends went through it. So they all learned their first job was with us. So which was great because we were helping out and getting to know all these parents because the kids were working with us, school connections, all those kind of things.
You knew exactly where your kids were.
Yeah,
they weren't getting into trouble.
Everybody, our house was like an open house.
Good.
Kids could come there. So I had both franchises at one point. Sport Club started in 2007 when I left the company, when I was leaving the company. So that's how the business part started in 1994, and I started learning about the business aspect of. And I was doing that in my company career also because I was running a P&L mostly and learning about all of those things. So it was like a combination of all these things. I mean, just learn.
I gotta go back. You told me that computers. I mean, you loved it. You dedicated all these years to this business, and then you chose ice cream.
Yes.
That was the product?
So here's the thing. So, I have to give credit to Susan. Susan's my wife, and she's the one who taught me how to see colors. Because I always saw black and white because of logic, and that was my comfort zone.
Right.
But I was always have been curious, but not in the human part of it evolved over a period of time. It's not something you're born with. Some people are, but I wasn't. But Susan taught me how to see colors and nuances. In my DNA, I'm a logical person. So that helps me stay centered, stay calm, figure things out, all of that. So that helps me there. But then Susan's influence had taught me how to see humans with all of the ups and downs, all of their flaws, all of their opportunities, all of their qualities. That's something I learned from her. And then I started applying it, and it took a while to make it as a behavioral thing. I will try things. I will weigh the pros and cons because I can do the logical part of it. I'm mathematical. I can use Excel spreadsheets and all that. Numbers tell me stories. So when I find something that's got the upside and maybe some downsides, but it's an opportunity, I will do it. And if it doesn't work, I always tell people I learned from it. And so people say, well, you wasted all that money. I said, no, I never wasted a single penny in my life. Is because I paid for my education. That's how I look at it. It's how you look at things.
Right.
It's not about what is happening. It's about how do you process it and how do you look at things. But if you find people and give them opportunities, sometimes you'll be disappointed. But most of the times they will respond. And if you can make somebody's life a little bit better, or a contributing member of the society or any of those kind of things, this is what my goal is. Baskin-Robbins is happening. So we did well. We got multiple stores. And I was still working, but I kept on working. And then when I started wanted to leave, because my vice president told me that I had to move to a company in San Diego, and I said, I'm not moving anymore. And then he said, well, then you can go to Minnesota because it's the headquarters. I said, I'm not going there either. So it's like, okay, I'm saying, so it's like, it's a good time to do it. And
so now you're looking at numbers.
Yeah.
The one in my mind, listening to you speak in your language, there's 2 sets of numbers you're looking at. 1, Baskin-Robbins. 2, now there's potentially sports clips because the third set of numbers is already gone now because now you're not going to do the job. So
when I was in Baskin-Robbins, the business was very different in 94. It's a product-based business. We took a store that, and we're talking 94, the business that it did in 94 was $125,000. And we took over. It was a mess. We cleaned it all up. We did everything that we could to make it a viable business. And the first year, it did $475,000.
Wow!
Which was at those days was amazing, and we got recognized for that. So the next year, we bought another store that was an existing store. Similar story. We turned it around. It became great. So and then we bought a newer store in Riverside. And we kept that for a little while. It was just too far and I was still working. The idea was I would leave, but I never did. So I said, well, this is too much. So we sold that store a little bit earlier. But this is what was happening while we were growing our business, but I ended up staying. So I said, well, okay, now that I'm going to leave, what do I want to do? So business had changed. Baskin-Robbins, the margins were different. The paid labor costs had gone up. The product costs had gone up. So margins were shrinking. So if you wanted to stay in Baskin-Robbins, you had to have at least 5 stores or more to make a living at it. And then you're never going to have all 5 stores as great stores.
Right.
So that's the thing that you got to learn too, is like, you're never going to have that. So we said, okay, we need to look at something different. And I started researching when I was leaving. And it took me 6 months to finally get to Sport Clips. Now, the Sport Clips is a great story because at that time, there were less than 400 stores nationwide. They had the franchise. It became a franchise in 1993.
So you're still not going back to your love of computers.
No. Okay, so here's what I did.
This is haircuts now.
Yes. But the thing is, it's not... See, for me, once I started growing as a person, I figured out that it was more about people and about making a difference in people's lives than it was just about me. So this is an evolution. It's not something that happened on day one. It was a process.
Right.
But as I started growing into that process, I said, you know what? We all have limited time on this earth, right? And our time is the most precious thing we have. Money can come and go, but time is never going to come back. So now nobody's going to take anything with them. You can be multimillionaire, billionaire, whatever. You're still going to go with nothing, maybe a coffin, maybe a shroud, but that's it, right? I mean, none of that is going with you. So what is the purpose of that, right? So that's where my thinking started evolving. So people ask me, it's like, what is your religion? Well, my religion is humanity. I don't care, what your belief system is. As long as you're good people, that's all that really matters. And when I was starting to look at that, Sport Clips sort of came on the radar. Somebody introduced me to it, and it was very new. And that's what I liked about it, because it was new, but I went and met with the CEO, Gordon Logan, who's the CEO and was the CEO at that time and the founder of the franchise. Amazing man. He's a veteran. He's an Air Force veteran. We do a lot of things with veterans. That's because of him. But he's an amazing person that we were supposed to spend an hour or two in Texas when I went to meet him to figure out which franchise I wanted to be part of. And we ended up spending a whole day because he was curious about me learning about my Baskin-Robbins experience, because I had that as a franchise, and he was starting his franchise. It started in 1993, so it was relatively new. This is 2007. They only had like less than 400 stores at that time. And it was mostly in the Texas area. That's where it started. Right. But we spent a whole day together, and I got to respect him, and he's a great friend of mine. I can talk to him anytime I want. We still are very good. His son, Edward, now is the CEO and Chief Executive Officer. Gordon is Chairman of the board now, and I think he's still the president. So when I went there, I was sold because their philosophy, my philosophy aligns. It's like, take care of people.
Right.
Do the best that you can. That's their mission statement. 2007 is when I signed. I bought 3 licenses and I started growing that. And when we were doing that, I did some things, I studied, I went and talked to the existing franchises that were here. I took them Baskin-Robbins ice cream and sat in their meetings because I didn't have a store at that time and I wasn't part of that. So, but I would go to them when they had their meetings, I would go to that and I would take them Baskin-Robbins ice cream. So they would let me sit in there and I learned from that. Because the first thing I want to do is learn what is it that's working for them. Because it's a brand new franchise. Because when you said Sport Clips in those days, people thought you had some kind of memorabilia or sports stuff or sports goods or something to do with that, right? Nobody thought about it as a haircut franchise because nobody knew that. So,
but it's a blueprint that you follow. I hope everybody is listening to the common thread. It's just learn.
Yeah.
Sit, learn, listen, and just be open.
Yeah. That
is how you take the leap into the next step.
Yep. And you got to be smart about things, obviously. You got to do your homework. So I have something that I have a little flip side to my card. It says ARIF. It's a play on my name. My daughter actually helped me with that. Shamila, her. She's an amazing person. She did a lot of marketing for us, not just for me, but for the region. She said, "Hey, Dad, do you do all of these? You teach people, you try to educate people and share with them. So why don't you start a little thing on the side and we'll use your name for it?" And I said, "Okay, what is this?" Because I know so much about franchising. So she said ARIF. a resource in franchising. So,
Wow.
so I started doing that. I taught, because one of the things that bothered me when people again, let's finish the journey first. So Sport Cliffs, so I met with them and started it. And then 2007, I signed. In 2008, I was looking for a very visible location. At that time, the rents, this location that I got, the rent was enormous and they would not agree with me. So it's just too much. We don't make that kind of money to be able to afford that kind of rent and all that. But I said, nobody knows our brand. I need something very visible on the corner in a big center where a lot of traffic is so that we can actually brand it. So I fought with them basically, and they agreed that, okay, we'll do the experiment with you. So to give you an idea, the rents that they were paying, mid-country and all that, in those days were around $2,500, $3,000. This was double. It was $6,000 almost. And they said, that's too much. So I said, well, we got to make it. And in those days, the average store did X amount of money. And I said, we'll do this much. He said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, we'll figure it out. I've got a plan. So like one of the things was, the grand opening fund in those days used to be $15,000. And they would spend it over 3 or 4 months. But when I went and sat with the other people, I learned that wasn't working. That slow trickle of money didn't really help. So I blew that money. I said, I'm going to blow that in 3 weeks. And they go, no, you can't do that. I said, no, I'm going to do it. This is the way I'm going to open. I'm going to open with a bang. So we got the Lakers involved. We got the Laker girls. I had friends in NFL and stuff. They came. We got all the dealerships involved. There were cars outside and, Collie Ford and, these are all our neighbors. These are people that I knew. And we just blew it out of we advertised everywhere. We took the 15 and blew it out in like 2 or 3 weeks. And we never looked back. That store never, and this is 2008 when the recession was happening. So April is when we opened. 2008, August, the war was coming to an end as we knew it at that time.
Right.
I wore a button that said, I refuse to participate.
Nice.
And I said, I'm not going to participate. This is an opportunity. This is not the end of the world. We'll do our best. If we survive, great. If not, I'll go do something else. Got to have that ability to do that, to distance yourself from it. So it actually, during that time, we actually grew. That store is like the top 25 store out of 2,000 stores in the country. And it has never been below that. It's been in the top 10 several times because that store has not stopped growing. COVID was the first time when we didn't. And after that, it was a little bit of a struggle, but we're back on that trajectory where we're growing. Actually, the revenue-wise, guest count-wise, getting close to what it used to be. So the thing was, I said, I'm not participating in this. I'm growing my business. Actually, it became an opportunity because people around me took short-term decisions and we took long-term decisions and we kept growing. We slowed down our build for the next store. I ended up buying somebody's store in Ontario, and now that store is in Laverne. I moved it. But we saw it like an opportunity and we positioned ourselves that way. Was it all easy? No, it was hard work. It was a lot of things, but I refused to give up because that's not my nature. I will find a way, again, going back to my days, I'll find a way to make it work. That's what the challenge is. That's what the fun is. And then you got to bring people along with you. It's not just me, it's my team. So Sport Cliffs became one of those things that I started building on it, making relationships, doing chamber stuff. 2012, we opened our store in Upland, and that's where I became a member in 2011, I think, right before 2012, because we opened in late 2012. So in the beginning of 2012, we partnered with Stevens Hofer. That's another thing we do. We want to give first before we take.
Right.
So we can talk about that. I mean, there's so many things. But that's how this thing came apart. So the idea was, how can I make a difference in some people's life? Now, haircut industry, stylist, a lot of people know a lot of them are single women or single mothers or younger women. They are in this industry because they're all creative people. I didn't know much about that till I got into this business. I have the utmost respect for stylists now. If somebody says anything bad about it, I am there to defend them because I have learned how hardworking they are.
Yes.
They're on their feet. They're managing their lives. They're doing things. So I have utmost respect for how hard work. And, try standing for 5-6 hours a day with your arms up and doing that on, and not. Let's see how long you last.
Right.
It is really hard work.
And then go home and make dinner.
And then make dinner and take care of the kids and do all of those kind of things, right? So these women, most of them are women. We have guys that are part of our teams, but mostly they're women. And So the idea was, how can I make a difference? Because it's about people. Again, you take care of them, they'll take care of you. Build the trust, do the right things, and they will do the right thing. So that's always been. So the reason we're growing is opportunities for my team. That's really what it is. More avenues for them to thrive in their career. Again, taking care of people. Make sure that you're doing that.
I have to interrupt because 2008, you wore the badge. Some would say now we're in about the same type of environment. In between, we have the pandemic. I have not heard you talk about failure, collapsing.
No.
I have heard you talk about top ramen in the past and sitting, no insurance, things like that.
Yeah.
Doing what you have to do to make it happen.
Yes.
But there have been tough times that you
absolutely.
just simply work through.
Yeah.
I believe that one of the strengths of our community that we're in here in Upland, especially in our chamber community, was what happened in the pandemic and how we all linked arm in arm.
Yeah. So
tell me about specifically your business, and how you got through it.
During that time, Sport Clips was very proactive. They made committees. They figured out how to help financially, how to do some of the franchise fees and forgiving them. I mean, they were just absolutely amazing in helping out their team leaders and helping out their team members, right? Because we had a responsibility to them, even though things were out of our control, but whatever we could do, we wanted to do. So I was part of those committees. I'm so grateful that I was asked to be on it. And there was a lot of other great team leaders and area developers and support people. And they just all worked towards the same goal, which is, again, a group of people doing something to reach the same goal, right? That's what really teamwork is about. So this was really great teamwork. And we helped people. We found out we advocated, we did government things about loans, about PPP. We were part of that because we were large enough to have heft to put in there. It's like, hey, we need to do something if you're going to have, because if the small businesses don't survive, you have no economy. I mean, you're done. So this country couldn't do that. So they did the right things. Took a while, but we did. So we figured out, it's like, how can we do that? I figured out, how can I help my team members? So we said, okay, you need to go on unemployment, so we have to lay you off. We're not laying you off, but we have to. Otherwise, you won't get that. So we did to help them out. We did whatever we could, whatever resources I had, I used that to help my team members get through those difficult times. We found resources for them. We did all of the advocacy things that we could. And of course, the chamber is actually a very integral part of it, because the relationships you make at the chamber, the context that you make, and the advocacy part of the chamber. Also, chamber has certain accesses to state representatives, to Congress representatives, senator representatives, all those kind of things, which you hopefully never have to use, but when you need it, it's there. The best part is information. Getting information that can help you make better decisions. Because you cannot make good decisions in a vacuum. You have to have the knowledge. You have to have the access to that information. And when you do all of that, then you can make better decisions. Nobody makes perfect decisions, but you can make better decisions.
The chamber is the resource. And after listening to you this morning, the activity, your activity in the chamber allows you options to those resources, because now you can talk to those people. You can learn. They have the information for you to help the business.
The amazing part is when you give, you always gain. So like one of the things we do is we always want to be part of the community. We're a small business. We don't have a lot of monetary things that we can do for everybody, right? We try to do that, but we can always do in-kind stuff. This is where the small businesses miss out, I think. It's because small businesses think, oh, I don't have the resource. Well, you do. Here's what we do. The way we can give back is a fundraiser somebody has, right? We can put together a gift basket that they can raffle off. We have services that we provide. We can give them gift certificates, right? We can't do cash all the time or money, but we can do in-kind or resource-driven things that can generate revenue for somebody else so that you can help. Now, who's supporting your small business? That community. If you grow other things, other people or other businesses, your business grows. It just works that way because now they have the ability and the money and the community. The community thrives, the children thrive, schools thrive, resources are available. It doesn't have to be always monetary. So time, like I sometimes go, I haven't done it post-COVID, but pre-COVID, they would invite me to schools and talk, they would invite other people too, firefighters, police, different disciplines. So the kids at elementary or even middle school can get, high school is a little bit different because the dynamic's different, but middle school, it plants a seed, right?
That's right.
Again,
that's right.
Your mind is like a garden. So if you plant a seed, you can then either grow flowers or, you can grow weeds. So it's just up to you. But the thing is, you've given them, for me, when I go teach, I used to do that for Unisys too. There was a university called Unipro. I used to teach management courses. I've always wanted to teach. I've done tutorials, things like that. So for me, it is like giving back in various different ways. It's not just always monetary. It's other ways that you can do it. Your time is the most precious thing. If you give your time, that means you really are vested in that because you cannot get it back. It's the most precious commodity you have. And if you give of that, even if you can't do monetary, that's amazing. That's even better than monetary because monetary comes and goes. But this part will stay, right?
And when you do have the capability of giving in a monetary fashion, you create and change lives. Hence the foundation. Now I want to move into that.
Right. So
this is all the giver's gain that you talk about.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we do with our Sport Clips. When we open, this is something also Sport Clips has learned from us doing it. We started doing it because it was the right thing to do. Again, it's the right, I always look at, is this the right thing to do? Even if it monetarily may not make too much sense, but is it the right thing to do? And if it is, it will always work out in your favor. So when we open a new store or we take over a store and we do grant, we haven't done it since COVID because of obvious reasons. But we're starting now. We're going to do it with our Norco store. So we partner with, that's why we become chamber members. And once we become chamber members, we look for the nonprofit that's there, that's vested in the community, and how can we help them? So, and then they of course have a database and we can reach out to them and then we can, presence, the city gets involved because, they want the business to thrive. So you just make those relationships, right? Which are precious. Then what we do is, we plan for 3 months and then we do a whole weekend of free haircuts. Just free. We bring our resources from other stores. We just man it. We market it. We partner. The chamber partners with us. Everything goes out. So like in our case, we've done it with Casa Colina. We've done it with Stevens Hope for Children. We've done it with Loma Linda Medical Universities, various different ones. So what that happens is all they have to do is donate $10 or more, and every penny goes to that nonprofit. Right?
Again, another nugget in your blueprint.
Yes.
Because you're very active and involved in the community, and you do give back.
We try to do the best we can.
There was a moment when you realized, people need help.
Yes. So let's talk about that.
Yes.
So Sport Clips, I think it's 12 years, maybe 13 years. I'm not sure about the date, but it's been at least 12 years. Had an unfortunate thing happen to a team leader in the system, just like me. Younger person had something happen to his health, had a massive heart attack and passed away. And at that time, Sport Clips realized, especially Gordon Logan, who's the CEO founder, he said, hey, we're big enough now where something unfortunate, something like that happens. And it made us realize as the team leader, but it was happening every day to our team members, right? Because when you have so many people, life is happening. People are dealing with things. So he said, he decided at that time, and it was called at that time Wayne McClone, who's the person that passed away, unfortunately. Wayne McClone Memorial Fund, Sport Clips created that. And then every Sport Clips franchise store contributes to that from their weekly sales. It's a small amount. And then that money all goes to that's a nonprofit that runs it. And then we have an application process and all of that. So that started 12 years ago. And that started helping out. So there are certain categories that we help out at, things that are not covered by anything else. That's what we try to cover. And it's an immediate relief. We've done hurricane relief, those kind of things. Health, of course, is one of the big ones. Death in families, we cover those kind of things. Automobile, things that are not your fault kind of things. So there's the wide variety, but we have a very specific, we can't cover everything because we can't do that. We wouldn't have the resources to do it, but and people contribute other ways too to that. So 12 years ago that started. And then as we grew larger, there was 3 committee members that used to administer it. And of course the organization that did that. But it became very clear that it was very hard to handle the workload because if you multiply 2,000 stores by at least 10 people per store,
right,
you're talking about a very large number of people, and things happen all over the country, right? We're in all 50 states plus Canada, right? So it became very obvious. At that point, I was asked if we can split the committee before it administered the whole country. They said, okay, let's divide it across the middle of the country, eastern half, western half. Would you come on board and help with doing that? And I've thought about it and I go, we are very busy in this. But I said, you know what? If it helps somebody, I'll do it. Deborah Sawyers was the one that was originally on that. She's a very, very good friend of mine. She's in Florida and Virginia. She has stores there. I learned from her a lot. She's an absolutely amazing person. I learned from so many people. They just, it's a blessing for me. But she is the one who did that. She's been there since the beginning. So then I took over so I administered the eastern part. So I'm on the western committee, but the eastern part of the country, because that way there's no conflict of interest too, because if there's people I know or even my team members, then somebody else is doing it. So it's very fair and balanced. First year was the hardest one for me to read all those hardship stories. And some of them were like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't sleep at night. But then Deborah and I talked and I said, I can't do this on long term. It's just wearing me out. And she goes, listen, you're helping somebody. In a small way, you're helping somebody. And that's how you got to look at it. And I go, you know what? It's how you look at things. So I know I read some of them and sometimes it brings tears to my eyes, especially when children are involved or things that happen to people. And there was one story that is just still gnaws at me. It was somebody's daughter that was an Uber driver and she was just delivering, and the person that she was dropping off, her husband or boyfriend or whatever it was, I can't remember the exact details. Came out and started shooting at her, and instead of killing that person, his partner, ended up shooting the Uber driver. And she passed away. And I read that story and my heart just broke. I said, I can't do this. This is too much. I mean, no fault of hers, and a small young person like that. I can't imagine what that mother's going through, right? But then we looked at it and goes, you know what? What can we do to just help a little bit, right? I mean, we can't take away the pain. We can't. So there are stories that bring tears to your eyes, and sometimes it takes me a while. I got to go have an old-fashioned or something after that. But the way I look at it now is, we're helping somebody in a small way. We're making a difference. And that's always been my thought process in growing my business. I don't even call it my business, our business. My team members are part of it, because without them, it doesn't happen. So they are empowered. My managers are empowered to make decisions, to do the things that they need to do the right thing. That's all you really got to look. I've built trust over 30 plus years, and I'm very, very, I guard it very, very jealously, because I don't want that to break. Because once you break, you cannot never build it again. You have to have that ability. Yes, mistakes, sure, we make them, apologize. Don't do anything intentionally that's going to break your trust, because once you break the trust, you cannot get it back. And that's one of the principles we have in our team, is when we hire people on, we let them know. It's like, integrity is something that we're not going to give you. You come with it. Once we decide to become team members, I'm a team member. I just have a different role. My area managers are team members. They have a different role. My manager is a team member. We call ourselves Team Taj because we have to give it a name. So it's like, okay, we give a team, but we are part of the, I have my role, they have their roles, but we are part of the same team.
You know what the best part about this whole podcast is? All my questions, they're already answered. I don't even have to ask a lot, because it's all about the blueprint of what you do and who you are. And you bring the human factor to your business and you teach these kids, because a lot of them are kids and they grow up in your business. Just, hey, we know you're going to make mistakes. It's
Absolutely.
we're not.
I want you to make mistakes because this is how we learn. If you don't make mistakes, that means you're not doing anything. You're not going outside of your proverbial box. You're not becoming uncomfortable. You got to become uncomfortable. One of the things I teach about is like when you're doing something, it's got to excite you. That's number one, right? But it's also got to put a little knot in your stomach. If it does both of those things, do it.
That's what I tell people when I'm talking about goals. If it makes you excited, but it almost makes you sick to your stomach, oh gosh, it's the right goal.
Yep.
You've done the right thing or you're going to be on the right path. You'll get there. Well, I have to tell you, and everybody out there in the audience, can you understand why he's an inspiration to me? Can you understand why I learn from him? Take the time to be a sponge from this podcast and listen to everything he has to say. Listen to it more than once. Has nothing to do with the questions. It has to do with the answer. It has to do with the journey, what he has and what he's done in his life. We know this is from the person who slept in a barn, who ate some top ramen.
Well, that was just a fun thing to do. It
doesn't matter. It's part of your journey.
We did go through some times where we had to tighten our belts.
That's right.
Yep.
And one conversation we had, he said, I just don't know where my kids get it from. Oh, you think? This spirit of constant curiosity, perseverance, and just a decision that there's going to be a human experience. It doesn't always have to be black and white. It's pretty awesome to watch.
It's a fun journey. It's not ended yet, hopefully.
Oh, no.
It's got a few more legs to it.
I have way too much to learn from you, so it can't end anytime soon. Where can people find you? How can they reach out to you and learn more?
Several different ways, but the best way, if you reach out to the Upland Chamber directory, I'm right in there, so you can find my contact information in there. But if you don't, then you can reach me at my email, which is arif.taj.sc, like Sugar Charlie or Sport Clips, @gmail.com. And then if you want my cell number, you can get it through the chamber office.
Wow. Forthcoming.
I'm always available if you want to just talk to me or ask me or even just want to bounce things off. Again, I'll share my honest opinions, my way of doing things. This is another thing that can come out of it is I always tell people that I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm always going to share with you stories of my experiences and give you ideas. Then you adapt it and make it your own. Because I learn from other people, that doesn't mean I do it the same way. Because I am me and they're them. But I'm always going to learn from them, use that knowledge, and then adapt it to how it will work for me. Because you got to be genuine. You can't just take something and say, that's me. It's not. It's always, people don't listen to you as much as they watch you and see how you behave and what you do. It's very true. Your kids do that. If you tell them, hey, don't do this, but then you go ahead and do it, they're watching you.
Right? Yeah.
If you want good behavior, you got to praise good behavior. But if you pay it, because every human being, every child, every adult, anybody, even myself, right? Everybody wants attention. And we want to be recognized or at least our presence felt, right?
Yes.
Even though it's called clients and counts and all that kind of stuff, I try to use the word guest. Because when somebody's coming into our store, if you treat a guest differently than a client. Client is somebody that's paying you something and you're doing something for them. A guest is somebody you invited into your place and now you're going to take care of them, right?
Serve.
So it's just the way you think about things, how you put it in your head, and that's what's going to come out. So your brain is like a closet, right?
Gosh, the young college kid needs to hear this.
The closet has so much space, and there are hangers in there. And if you put in, depending on what you put in on those hangers, that's what's going to take up the space.
Right.
So if you put in good stuff, colorful things, bright things, all of that, that's what's going to hang in your closet.
Right.
But if you start putting dark blacks and no colors and stuff like that's what's going to hang in your closet. So again, one of the other things I teach about is business is like farming. It's not like hunting. A lot of business people get into that and they go, okay, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to get this business and I'm going to be... No, it's like farming. What you do is you get the land first, then you till the land, then you put the seeds in, then you water it, and then some weeds are going to grow, which is the things that take you off course. You got to course correction. Take out those weeds and let the crop grow. When it gets to a certain height, then you harvest it. That's what business is.
If I had a mic, it would be dropped right here, right now. That's the whole, oh my gosh, that's the whole blueprint. That's the whole journey right there. It's how are you watering those seeds and what are you doing?
Taking out the weeds. That's the course correction.
Yeah,
because things will happen that are not in your control. So now you got to do that. So that's your weeding part. And then you harvest after that.
Once again, I am inspired and I'm so grateful for your time today. And I thank you for spending time with us. And I hope that our audience can see why he's such a success, number one, when it comes to business. But number two, a great human that we all can learn from. And I'm just grateful for everything that you've given to me because I've learned and I value our friendship big time.
Thank
and
you.
Of course,
I appreciate that.
A great shout out to Miss Susan in the background because she knows how much I love her.
Yeah, and then the kids are a whole different podcast.
So thank you so very, very much. We truly appreciate your time today.